She's done what 25 tutors couldn't, Victor Langston muttered, his voice thick with exhaustion as he surveyed the chaos of his Chicago penthouse. Eleanor's death had left the white billionaire alone with his twin sons, Caleb and Finn, whose cunning pranks, rigging traps, mocking lessons, drove off every tutor in a month. Yet passing the kitchen, Victor froze. There, Zora Caldwell, the new black maid in a slate blue uniform, her sleek hair in a tight bun, had the boys studying intently. How did she tame them? What secret did she hold? Could her fierce resolve heal a broken home? Or would shadows from the past unravel it all? Guess how this unfolds. Will Zora save them? Vote 1 to love this story, 0 if it falls flat. Your predictions fuel their tale. Victor Langston's voice still echoed in his own ears, raw and jagged, as he stood in the doorway of his Chicago penthouse. You're the 26th tutor. Don't waste my time. He'd growled it, the words spilling out like gravel, his blue eyes scanning the chaos of the sprawling living room. The sleek glass coffee table was smeared with marker streaks, a half-finished Lego fortress teetered on the rug, and a forgotten juice carton lay tipped over, its contents pooling into the fibers. His chest tightened. This place used to be a home, filled with Eleanor's soft laughter, her fingers brushing his as they planned their future. Now it was a battlefield, and he was losing. A year ago, Eleanor's death had gutted him. The car accident had been sudden, a cruel thief that left him alone with their twin sons, Caleb and Finn. At 10, the boys were pale mirrors of their mother, with her sharp cheekbones and unruly blonde hair, always wearing those damn red t-shirts like a uniform of defiance. They were smart, too smart. Victor saw it in the way they'd recite chemical formulas just to rig a baking soda explosion in a tutor's briefcase. 25 tutors in 1 month. Every single one had walked out, some with tears, others with curses, all with their money in their pockets and nothing to show for it. He rubbed his temple, the throb of another sleepless night pulsing under his skin. How had it come to this? He stepped over a stray Lego, the sharp edge grazing his loafer, and his mind churned. They're just kids, he told himself, but the thought felt hollow. Caleb's smirk when he'd swapped a tutor's notes with a list of insults. Finn's gleeful cackle as he triggered a glitter bomb in the study. They weren't just pranks. They were screams, raw and desperate, for something Victor couldn't give. He'd tried everything: cash bonuses, stern lectures, even sitting them down to talk about Eleanor. But every time he looked into their eyes, he saw her absence, and his own failure stared back. What kind of father can't reach his own sons? The penthouse stretched around him, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering Chicago skyline. Once, he'd loved this view, a testament to his tech empire, Langston Enterprises. Now, it mocked him, each twinkling light a reminder of deals he could close while his home fell apart. He loosened his tie, the silk slipping through his fingers like the control he'd lost. The air smelled faintly of spilled juice and marker ink, a sour edge to the sterile luxury. His gaze drifted to a framed photo on the mantel. Eleanor smiling, her arms around the boys. They'd been 6 then, their red shirts bright, their faces innocent. Victor's throat ached. When did I lose you? A sharp clatter from the study snapped him out of it. His pulse spiked, bracing for another disaster. Last week, Finn had rigged a pulley system to dump paint on a tutor's head. Victor strode toward the sound, his polished shoes clicking on the hardwood. What now? His mind raced, picturing shattered glass or worse. But as he reached the doorway, he stopped, his breath catching. The study was a mess. Books strewn across the desk, a whiteboard scrawled with half-erased equations. But Caleb and Finn weren't laughing. They sat at the table, red t-shirts rumpled, pencils in hand, scribbling furiously. Their pale faces were pinched with focus, not mischief. At the head of the table stood Zora Caldwell, the new black maid, her slate blue uniform crisp despite the chaos. Her straight hair was pulled into a tight bun at the nape of her neck, gleaming under the chandelier's light. She leaned forward, her dark eyes locked on Finn's paper, her voice low and sharp. That's not how you solve for X. Try again. Finn, who'd once hidden a tutor's phone in a vase, nodded without a smirk. Caleb, the mastermind behind a fake spider prank, glanced up nervously, as if afraid to disappoint her. Victor's stomach twisted. Who is this woman? He'd hired Zora to clean, not teach. Yet here she was, commanding his sons with a presence that felt like a storm rolling in. Fierce, unyielding. Her fingers tapped the table, a subtle rhythm, and Victor noticed a faint scar across her knuckles, barely visible against her dark skin. Where did that come from? His mind snagged on the detail, a flicker of unease creeping in. She wasn't like the others, tutors who'd cowered or begged. Zora's gaze flicked to Caleb, catching him doodling. Focus, she said, her tone cutting but not cruel. The boy straightened, his pencil moving again. Victor's chest tightened, a mix of awe and suspicion. 25 tutors, PhDs, veterans, even a retired principal, had crumbled under the boy's defiance. Yet Zora, in one morning, had them working. How? He leaned against the doorframe, unnoticed, watching her. The way she stood, shoulders square, exuded control, but there was something else. A flicker in her eyes when she glanced at the boys. A softness that didn't match her sharp commands. Is she playing a game? The thought stung, born from months of betrayal by tutors who'd taken his money and run. He wanted to believe in her, in the possibility of order restored. But trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. His phone buzzed in his pocket, the vibration jarring. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen. A message from Lydia, Eleanor's sister. We need to talk about the boys' trust fund. I'm coming tomorrow. His jaw clenched. Lydia, with her sharp tongue and sharper judgment, had always seen him as a failure of a father. What did she want now? Victor's gaze drifted back to Zora, her bun catching the light as she corrected Finn's equation. The boy's pencils scratched on, a fragile rhythm in a home that had forgotten how to hope. Could this woman, this stranger, be the answer? Or was she hiding something that would tear them apart? Victor Langston stood frozen in the study doorway, his breath shallow, the image of Zora Caldwell commanding his sons burning into his mind. Caleb and Finn, their pale faces taut with focus, scribbled equations under her watchful gaze, their red t-shirts a stark contrast to the slate blue uniform she wore. Her straight hair, pulled into a tight bun at the nape of her neck, caught the chandelier's light, a beacon of order in his chaotic world. How is this possible? The question gnawed at him, sharp and insistent, as he gripped the doorframe. 25 tutors, scholars with degrees, teachers with decades of experience, had fled this penthouse, defeated by his boys' relentless pranks. Yet Zora, a maid hired to scrub floors, had them studying in a single morning. His chest tightened, a tangle of hope and suspicion twisting inside. He'd been braced for failure when he hired the new tutor, a wiry man named Dr. Ellis, some professor from Northwestern, with a resume longer than Victor's patience. The man had arrived an hour ago, clutching a briefcase, his glasses fogging with nervous sweat. Victor had barely glanced at him, muttering, "You're the 26th. Don't waste my time," before retreating to his office. He'd heard it all before. Promises of discipline, innovative methods, only to find another resignation email by noon. Why did I even bother? The thought stung, heavy with the weight of Eleanor's absence. She'd known how to reach the boys, her soft voice turning their chaos into laughter. Victor, with his boardroom victories and pale, exhausted face, felt like a stranger in their world. Now standing here, he couldn't tear his eyes from Zora. She leaned over Finn's paper, her finger tracing a line of numbers, her voice low but unyielding. You flipped the variable. Fix it. Finn, who'd once rigged a tutor's chair to collapse, nodded quickly, erasing furiously. Caleb, usually smirking as he sabotaged lessons, glanced at Zora with a flicker of fear. Or was it respect? Victor's pulse quickened. What does she have that the others didn't? Her presence was a force, not loud but undeniable, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Her uniform was pristine, not a wrinkle despite the morning's chaos. But that scar on her knuckles, faint, jagged, caught his eye again. What kind of life leaves a mark like that? He stepped forward, the hardwood creaking under his shoes, and the boy's head snapped up. "Dad!" Finn called, his voice bright but edged with caution, as if caught doing something wrong. Caleb clutched his pencil, his pale fingers smudged with graphite. "Zora's making us learn," he said, almost proud. Victor's gaze shifted to Zora, her dark eyes meeting his, steady and unflinching. "Mr. Langston," she said, wiping her hands on her apron, the motion deliberate. "They wanted to test me. I don't play games." Her words hit like a challenge, her voice carrying a weight that made his throat ache. "She's not afraid of them. Or me." Victor's mind churned. "You're not a tutor," he said, his tone sharper than intended, testing her. 25 others failed. Most didn't last a day. He wanted her to flinch, to show some crack in her armor, but Zora's lips curved slightly. Not defiance, but confidence. "I'm not most, Mr. Langston," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I'm here to fix what's broken." The words landed like a stone in his chest, stirring a flicker of hope he hadn't felt since Eleanor. But doubt clung to him, stubborn and cold. Fix what's broken. He'd heard promises before, tutors who swore they could handle the boys, only to leave with his money and their pride in tatters. Was Zora different or just better at hiding her limits? He noticed the way her fingers rested on the table, steady, but her thumb brushed the scar on her knuckle, a nervous tick she didn't seem to notice. What's her story? The question burrowed deeper, fueled by the memory of Lydia's message from last night. "We need to talk about the boys' trust fund. I'm coming tomorrow." His sister-in-law's sharp voice echoed in his head, always laced with judgment. She'd called him a failure of a father at Eleanor's funeral, her green eyes cold as she blamed him for the boy's wildness. What does she want now? The thought twisted his gut, a mix of anger and fear. Was she after control or something worse? Victor's gaze drifted to the whiteboard behind Zora, scrawled with equations in her neat handwriting, not the tutor's. Dr. Ellis was nowhere in sight. "Where's the professor?" he asked, his voice low, suspicion creeping in. Zora didn't blink. "He left 20 minutes ago," she said, her tone matter-of-fact. "Couldn't handle Finn's questions." Finn grinned, a flash of his old mischief, but it faded under Zora's glance. Victor's jaw tightened, another one gone. But instead of despair, a spark of curiosity flared. Zora hadn't just filled the gap. She'd taken over, turning his son's defiance into focus. How does she do it? The boys went back to their work, pencil scratching, the sound of fragile rhythm in the penthouse's silence. Victor watched Zora adjust Caleb's grip on his pencil, her touch firm but not harsh. Her bun gleamed, untouched by the chaos, but a single strand of hair had slipped loose, curling against her neck. It felt like a clue, a crack in her perfect control. Is she as steady as she seems? His mind raced, torn between the hope she sparked and the doubt that shadowed it. Trust was a risk he hadn't taken since Eleanor's death, and every fiber of him screamed to guard against it. Yet as Zora's voice cut through the air, "Good, Caleb, now try the next one." He felt a pull, a whisper of possibility. Could she be the one to save his boys? Or was she hiding something that would shatter them all? His phone buzzed again, the vibration sharp against his thigh. Another message from Lydia. "Be ready, we'll discuss their future." The words sent a chill through him, her intent unclear but heavy with threat. Victor's eyes flicked to Zora, her silhouette framed by the study's glow, the boys working under her command. For the first time in months, the penthouse felt alive, not just loud, but as he turned away, a faint clatter from the hallway stopped him. A book hitting the floor, or something heavier? His heart skipped. What now? Victor Langston's heart thudded as the faint clatter from the hallway lingered in his ears, a sharp reminder of the chaos that ruled his Chicago penthouse. He stood just outside the study, where Zora Caldwell's voice cut through the air, steady and commanding, guiding his twin sons, Caleb and Finn, through equations. Their red t-shirts glowed under the chandelier's light, their pale faces bent over notebooks, a sight so foreign it felt like a dream. Zora, the black maid in her slate blue uniform, her straight hair pulled into a tight bun, was a force, fierce, unyielding, like a blade slicing through the boy's defiance. How does she do it? The question clawed at him, mingling with the unease sparked by that sound. A book falling or something heavier? His mind raced, picturing another prank, another failure. Not again. He stepped toward the hallway, his polished shoes silent on the hardwood, but his thoughts were loud, chaotic. The penthouse, with its sleek furniture and glittering skyline views, mocked his inability to control his own home. Eleanor's death had left a void, and Caleb and Finn, with their sharp minds and sharper rebellion, filled it with chaos. 25 tutors, each one a supposed expert, had crumbled under their pranks, from rigged calculators to fake vomit on lesson plans. Victor's chest ached, the weight of his failure pressing harder with every memory of Eleanor's smile, her ease with the boys. I'm not her, I can't be. Yet Zora, hired to clean, had done what no scholar could. She'd turned his son's mischief into focus, their smirks into concentration. Is she too good to be true? He peered into the study again, unable to resist. Zora stood at the whiteboard, her marker tracing a quadratic equation, her voice low but firm. Caleb, explain your answer. Don't just guess. Caleb, whose pale fingers had once swapped a tutor's notes with limericks, hesitated, then spoke, his voice steady. I factored it to find the roots. Zora nodded, a faint smile breaking her stern facade. Finn, usually plotting his next trap, scribbled furiously, his red t-shirt rumpled. Victor's throat tightened. They're listening to her. He noticed the way Zora's hand moved, precise but tense, her scarred knuckles catching the light. That scar again. Jagged, personal. What kind of life leaves a mark like that? His suspicion deepened, a shadow creeping over the hope she'd sparked. The boy's pencils scratched, a rhythm that felt fragile, like it could shatter any second. Victor leaned against the wall, his pale face reflected faintly in a nearby mirror, exhaustion etched into every line. He'd built Langston Enterprises from nothing, negotiated deals that reshaped industries, but his sons were a puzzle he couldn't solve. Why can't I reach them? The thought burned, laced with guilt. He'd buried himself in work since Eleanor's death, leaving Caleb and Finn to scream for attention through their chaos. Zora's presence, her ability to command them, felt like a mirror to his own shortcomings. Is she showing me up or showing me the way? Her voice snapped him back. Finn, slow down. Accuracy over speed. Finn nodded, his usual smirk absent, replaced by a wary respect. Victor's gaze lingered on Zora's bun, a single strand still loose, curling against her neck like a secret she couldn't hide. He caught her glancing at the boys, her dark eyes softening for a split second before hardening again. What's driving her? The question gnawed, fueled by the memory of Lydia's messages. The latest one, be ready. We'll discuss their future, sat heavy in his pocket, his phone a constant reminder of her looming visit. Lydia had always judged him, her voice sharp at Eleanor's funeral, blaming him for the boy's wildness. What's her angle now? His gut twisted, fear and anger colliding. Was she after the trust fund, or something more personal? Victor's thoughts were interrupted by a soft creak from the hallway. He turned, his pulse spiking, but saw only a stray pencil rolling across the floor, likely the source of the earlier clatter. Just a pencil. Relief washed over him, but it was fleeting. Zora's voice carried on, steady, as she corrected Caleb's work. Good, but check your signs. The boy nodded, his pale face focused, no trace of the defiance that had driven off tutors. Victor watched her move, her slate blue uniform pristine, her posture radiating control. But that loose strand of hair, that scar, they felt like clues, pieces of a puzzle he didn't trust himself to solve. Is she here to help or to hide something? He wanted to believe in her, in the possibility of order restored. The boy's progress, however small, was a lifeline he hadn't felt in months. But trust was a risk, and Victor's heart, battered by loss and failure, guarded itself fiercely. He noticed Zora's hand pause, her fingers brushing the edge of a book on the table. An old math textbook, its cover worn, a faint coffee stain on the corner. Did she bring that? The details snagged another layer of doubt. No tutor had used that book. It wasn't part of their curriculum. Where did it come from? His phone buzzed again, sharp and insistent. Victor pulled it out, his jaw tightening as he read Lydia's name on the screen. Arriving tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't keep me waiting. The words hit like a warning shot, her intent unclear but heavy with menace. Victor's eyes flicked back to Zora, her silhouette framed by the study's glow. The boys working under her command. The air felt charged, like the calm before a storm. Could Zora's fierce control be the answer to his broken home? Or was she a spark that would ignite a fire he couldn't put out? As he turned away, a faint rustle from the hallway caught his ear. A page turning, or something else. His heart stuttered. What's coming next? Victor Langston's heart skipped as the faint rustle from the hallway echoed in his mind. A whisper of trouble in the deceptive calm of his Chicago penthouse. He stood just outside the study, where Zora Caldwell's sharp voice still guided Caleb and Finn through their equations, their red t-shirts bright against the dark wood of the table. Her slate blue uniform was a beacon of control, her straight hair pulled into a tight bun, but that loose strand curling against her neck haunted him, a crack in her armor. What was that sound? His thoughts churned, the memory of past pranks, glitter bombs, rigged chairs, making his pulse race. He wanted to believe in Zora's power over his sons, but doubt clung to him, heavy and cold, fueled by Lydia's looming visit. What does she want with the boys' trust fund? He stepped toward the hallway, his shoes silent on the hardwood, but his mind was loud with questions. The penthouse, with its glittering skyline views, felt like a cage, trapping his grief and failure. Caleb and Finn, their pale faces so like Eleanor's, had turned their grief into chaos, driving off 25 tutors with their clever defiance. Zora, the black maid hired to clean, had done the impossible, gotten them to focus, their pencils scratching in a rhythm that felt like hope. But that hope was fragile, and Victor's chest ached with the weight of it. Can I trust her? Her scar, that jagged mark on her knuckles, flickered in his memory, a detail that didn't fit her polished control. What's she hiding? He returned to the study doorway, drawn by the steady cadence of Zora's voice. Finn, your answer's close. Check your work. Finn, usually plotting his next stunt, nodded, his pale fingers gripping the pencil. Caleb, who'd once hidden a tutor's glasses in a plant pot, scribbled diligently, his red t-shirt rumpled. Victor's throat tightened. They're actually learning. Zora stood at the whiteboard, her marker tracing a graph, her movements precise but tense. He noticed her left hand, the way it hovered over the board, hesitating before writing. Is she nervous? The thought snagged, a small clue that fed his unease. No tutor had lasted this long, yet Zora wasn't crumbling. Why is she different? A sudden crash from the living room shattered his thoughts. Victor's stomach dropped, his body moving before his mind caught up. He sprinted down the hall, the sound of breaking glass ringing in his ears. Not again. The living room was a mess, shards of a shattered vase scattered across the rug, blue ink pooling on the glass coffee table, dripping like blood. Caleb and Finn stood frozen, their red t-shirts speckled with ink, their pale faces wide-eyed with feigned innocence. Zora appeared behind them, her bun gleaming, her uniform pristine despite the chaos. A science experiment gone wrong, she said, her voice steady but edged with steel. They thought ink would make a better volcano. Victor's anger flared, his pale face flushing. What the hell is this? He snapped, his voice sharper than intended. The boys flinched, but Zora's gaze met his unflinching. A mistake, she said, her tone calm but firm. They're learning boundaries. She handed Caleb a rag, her scarred knuckles brushing his. Victor caught the motion, his suspicion spiking. Is she covering for them? The boys grabbed rags, scrubbing the table under her watchful eye, their usual defiance gone. Finn, who'd orchestrated a paint spill just last week, worked silently. Caleb, the mastermind of a fake snake prank, muttered an apology. Victor's chest tightened, a mix of frustration and awe. She's still in control. Most tutors would have quit by now, but Zora turned their chaos into a lesson. He wanted to believe in her, but Lydia's message, arriving tomorrow, 10 a.m. "Don't keep me waiting," burned in his mind. Her sharp voice at Eleanor's funeral, calling him a failure, echoed. "What's her game?" His gaze drifted to a photo on the mantel. Eleanor with the boys, their red shirts bright, her smile warm. "I've failed them." The thought cut deep, exposing his absence since her death. Zora approached, her steps light but deliberate. "They're not bad kids, Mr. Langston," she said softly, her dark eyes searching his. "They're hurting." Her words sliced through him, raw and true. He hadn't seen their pain, only their pranks. "Have I been blind?" He noticed her thumb brushing that scar again, a nervous tick. "You don't know them," he said, his voice curt, shielding his guilt. Zora didn't flinch. "Maybe not," she said, her tone steady. "But I know pain." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Victor's mind flashed to a conversation with Mrs. Ellis, the housekeeper from yesterday. "Zora's from Englewood," she'd said, her voice low. "Knew your family years ago." The words sparked unease. "How did you know us?" He studied Zora, her bun catching the light, that loose strand still curling against her neck. The ink-stained table was nearly clean, the boys working under her command. But that textbook from yesterday, with its worn cover and coffee stain, nagged at him. Why is it familiar? His phone buzzed, sharp and insistent. Another message from Lydia. "Bring the trust fund papers. This is about their future?" His stomach twisted. Her words were a threat wrapped in concern. Victor glanced at Zora, her silhouette steady amidst the chaos, the boys scrubbing diligently. The air felt thick, charged with questions. Was Zora's control a gift or a mask? And what did Lydia know about her past? As he turned away, a faint glint caught his eye. A small key, half hidden under the rug, its edge scratched. Where did that come from? His heart pounded. What's she hiding? Victor Langston's hand clenched around the small key from the rug, its scratched edge biting into his palm as the metallic clink from the foyer echoed in his mind. The sound, sharp and deliberate, had followed Lydia's venomous accusations, leaving his Chicago penthouse thick with tension. Lydia's folder, with its grainy photos and forged documents, lay open on the glass table, accusing Zora Caldwell, the black maid in her slate blue uniform, of seeking revenge. Caleb and Finn, their pale faces flushed under their red t-shirts, stood by Zora, their defiance a knife in Victor's chest. They trust her. Why can't I? His pale face, reflected in the table's surface, was taut with doubt, his mind reeling from Lydia's threat to tank his company's merger. What's that click mean? The question gnawed, a new piece in the puzzle of Zora's mysterious presence. The foyer's chandelier cast fractured light across the room, mirroring the cracks in Victor's resolve. Zora stood firm, her straight hair pulled into a tight bun, her dark eyes fierce despite Lydia's sneer. "You're a fraud," Lydia had said, her green eyes glinting with malice. Victor's heart pounded, torn between the boy's faith in Zora and the damning photo of a younger her outside his father's office. Was she really there? The memory of Mrs. Ellis's words, Zora's past in Englewood, tied to his family, stirred unease. He wanted to believe in Zora's control, the way she'd turned his son's chaos into focus. But doubt was a shadow he couldn't shake. Is she my salvation or my ruin? Lydia's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp and cold. Choose, Victor, the trust fund or your investors. Learn the truth. Her tailored coat swished, a symbol of her privilege, as she leaned closer, her smile venomous. Victor's jaw tightened, anger surging. She's using my boys. Caleb and Finn clung to Zora, their red t-shirts vivid against her slate blue uniform, their pale hands gripping hers. Zora's our friend, Finn said, his voice trembling but fierce. Caleb's blue eyes blazed. She's not a liar. Their faith hit Victor like a wave, exposing his own wavering trust. Have I failed them this badly? Before he could speak, Mrs. Ellis stormed in, her gray hair askew, her face fierce. Enough, she snapped, holding up her phone, her voice shaking with indignation. I recorded you, Lydia, plotting with that rival firm last month. The room froze. Victor's pulse spiked as Ellis played the audio, Lydia's voice clear and cutting. If Victor resists, we tank the merger. The trust fund's mine. Lydia's face paled, her green eyes darting to the door. That's no proof, she hissed, but her voice cracked, her confidence crumbling. Victor's rage boiled over, his pale hands trembling. She's been playing me. The realization burned, a mix of fury and relief. Zora wasn't the enemy. Lydia was. Get out, Victor said, his voice low and lethal. You're done, Lydia. His words were a blade cutting through her facade. Lydia clutched her bag, her lips twitching with a final threat. This isn't over, Victor. She stormed out, her heels echoing, leaving the air heavy with her parting shot. Victor sank against the table, the folder's photos staring up at him. Zora's younger face, defiant in the grainy image, clashed with the woman before him, her bun steady, her scarred knuckles barely visible. Was I wrong about her? Zora knelt beside the boys, her slate blue uniform stained with their smudged fingerprints, her voice a soft balm. You're safe, she whispered, smoothing Finn's hair. Caleb's shoulders relaxed, his pale face softening. Victor's throat burned, guilt flooding him for doubting her. She's been their anchor. He noticed her hand tremble slightly, a rare crack in her control as she tucked that loose strand of hair behind her ear. What's her pain? The question lingered, softer now, tinged with awe. Zora, he said, his voice raw. I'm sorry, I should have trusted you. She looked up, her dark eyes shimmering with pain and resolve. Trust takes time, Mr. Langston, she said, her voice steady but heavy. Start with them. She nodded at the boys who clung to her, their red t-shirts crumpled. Victor's chest ached, the weight of his absence as a father crushing him. I've been blind. Zora's words from the kitchen echoed. I know pain, and he saw it now, in the way her fingers brushed her scar, a reflex she couldn't hide. Mrs. Ellis lingered, her face softer now, watching Zora with new respect. She's not like the others, she said quietly, her voice low as she met Victor's gaze. Her brother worked for your father, lost everything in a deal gone south. She was just a kid. The words hit like a stone, deepening Victor's guilt. My family hurt hers. Zora had suffered because of Langston Enterprises, yet here she was, saving his sons. He wanted to ask more, to unravel her story, but the boys' quiet sniffles stopped him. They were safe, thanks to her. As Zora led Caleb and Finn back to the study, their pencils waiting, Victor's gaze fell to the floor. The metallic clink from earlier. He spotted it now, a small, tarnished locket half hidden under the table, its chain tangled. Did Lydia drop it? His heart raced as he picked it up, its weight heavier than it should be. The locket's clasp was stiff, but a faint engraving caught the light. A name, barely legible. Zora. His breath caught. Is this hers or part of Lydia's game? The penthouse felt alive with questions, Zora's truth clearer but still shadowed. As her voice drifted from the study, steady and firm, Victor clutched the locket, a new mystery tightening its grip. What else don't I know? Victor Langston clutched the tarnished locket, its faint engraving. Zora, heavy in his hand, as he stood in the quiet of his Chicago penthouse, the echo of Lydia's parting threat fading like a distant storm. The revelation of her betrayal, exposed by Mrs. Ellis's recording, had shattered the accusations against Zora Caldwell, the black maid whose fierce presence had tamed his sons, Caleb and Finn. Their red t-shirts, bright against their pale skin, had been a constant in the chaos, but now under Zora's slate blue uniform and steady gaze, they were symbols of hope. What does this locket mean? The question lingered, softer now, as Victor's heart shifted from doubt to a fragile trust. Lydia was gone, her plot to seize the boys' trust fund buried, but Zora's past, tied to his family's sins, still cast a shadow. Can I let go of the fear? The penthouse, once a battlefield of pranks and pain, felt lighter, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing a city skyline that no longer mocked him. Victor's pale face, etched with exhaustion, softened as he watched the rooftop garden buzz with life. He'd organized a gathering, not the cold elite affairs of his past, but a warm, chaotic party for Caleb and Finn's school friends. Lanterns swayed in the evening breeze, casting golden light across tables laden with pizza and cupcakes, laughter filling the air. Caleb and Finn darted through the crowd, their red t-shirts vivid, their pale faces alight with joy, not defiance. Zora moved among the kids, her bun gleaming, her slate blue uniform pristine, as she helped a girl tape a paper rocket to a string. She's their anchor. Victor stood on the patio, his chest swelling with a warmth he hadn't felt since Eleanor's death. I've been a ghost. The thought stung, raw with guilt. He'd buried himself in Langston Enterprises, leaving his sons to scream for attention through pranks. Zora had seen their pain when he hadn't, turning their chaos into focus with her fierce calm. Her words from the study, "Trust takes time. Start with them," echoed a challenge he was finally ready to meet. He noticed her scarred knuckles as she handed a boy a marker, the faint mark no longer a mystery, but a testament to her strength. She's been hurt, too. The realization deepened his gratitude, softening the edges of his doubt. Caleb tugged his sleeve, his blue eyes sparkling. "Dad, come see our project." Finn grinned, waving from a table piled with model volcanoes. Victor followed, his heart lighter, but the locket in his pocket felt heavy, its mystery unresolved. Is it hers? He'd spent days with lawyers, using Ellis's recording to block Lydia's threats, ensuring the trust fund stayed safe. But the victory felt hollow without his son's smiles, and Zora had given him those. She's more than a maid. Her selflessness, despite his family's role in her brother's loss, shamed him. He wanted to honor her, to make her more than the help Lydia had mocked. Mrs. Ellis approached, her gray hair neat now, her face softer. "Those boys are different," she said, nodding toward Caleb and Finn. "She's different." Her eyes, once skeptical of Zora, now held pride. "You're keeping her, I hope." Victor nodded, his throat tight. "She's family, Ellis." The words felt right, a truth he'd been too broken to admit. Family. The thought warmed him, but the locket's weight tugged at his mind, a final piece of the puzzle. The boys tugged Zora to a makeshift stage of wooden crates, their pale faces glowing with mischief and something deeper. Love. "We made something for you," Caleb announced, his voice carrying over the crowd's chatter. Finn held a small box, his red t-shirt crumpled, his grin shy. Victor's heart stuttered. "What's this?" Zora knelt, her slate blue uniform brushing the grass, her bun catching the lantern's glow. "What's this, my knights?" she teased, her voice warm but trembling. Finn opened the box, revealing a hand-painted paper lantern, covered in stars and a rocket, and a folded drawing. Caleb unfolded it, showing 4 figures, 2 boys in red, a man in a suit, and a woman with a tight bun, labeled "Our Family." The crowd hushed, and Victor's eyes burned. Zora's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling as she pulled the boys close. "You too," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're my light." The twins clung to her, their red t-shirts crumpled against her uniform, and the kids around them cheered, some wiping their eyes. Victor stepped forward, his voice unsteady. "Zora," he said, loud enough for all to hear, "you didn't just save my boys, you saved me." His chest ached with gratitude, with the weight of his failures. "You took a broken house and made it a home. We're not letting you go." Her eyes met his, shimmering with tears, her bun steady despite the breeze. For a moment, the world was just them, her strength a beacon in the lantern's glow. Finn's voice cut through, small but clear. "Are you our family now, Zora?" Caleb added. "For real?" She laughed through her tears, hugging them tighter. "For real, as long as you'll have me." The crowd erupted, but Victor's gaze fell to the locket in his hand. He opened it, revealing a tiny photo, a young Zora with a boy, her brother, smiling. Her family. His throat tightened, the last shadow of doubt lifting. As the party continued, Victor joined the boys and Zora, helping them light the painted lantern. It soared above the rooftop, a glowing star against the Chicago night. Ellis nodded approvingly, her faith in Zora complete. Victor took Zora's hand, her fingers warm in his, and whispered, "Thank you." Her smile, radiant against her slate blue uniform, was his answer. The boys' laughter, once a cry for attention, now rang with love. As the lantern faded into the sky, Victor felt a certainty he hadn't known in years. Zora wasn't just a maid. She was the heart of their family, her pain and strength weaving them together. One question lingered, soft but clear. What's next for us? The Chicago penthouse, once a battleground of chaos, now glowed with the warmth of a family reborn, proving that love and trust can heal even the deepest wounds. Victor, Zora, Caleb, and Finn found light in their shared strength, showing that family isn't just blood, it's the bonds we choose to forge. What moment in their journey hit you hardest? Was it Zora's fierce resolve, the boy's transformation, or Victor's leap of faith? Share your thoughts below. Your reflections bring their story to life. Next time, join us for another tale of broken hearts finding hope in unexpected places. Thank you for being here, for feeling their joys and struggles with us. Come back soon for more stories that spark the soul. See you then.